Hey guys, my name is Julia and I'm the creator of the channel. Today we will discuss the story you sent me. If you like the content, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment down below. So let's start it.
I got an anonymous call saying that my wife was cheating on me, but then I saw video proof. My, male 36, wife, female 34, cheated on me back in 2019. I was blindsided, and I wanted to share because I was told my reaction was a little unhealthy. After I was played like some kind of fool, I wanted to understand why some women were so untrustworthy. My wife had showed me she had no loyalty, even though I did what I needed to keep her happy. Me and my wife got married 6 years ago, and we were in a good place from the beginning. I worked handling the accounts at my company, and she was a STNA nurse when I met her. We rented a nice house and wasn't in any real debt. We were good at managing our money, so spending wasn't a problem. We communicated easily, worked good as a team, and getting physical at night was easy because she was just gorgeous and kept her looks up always. Our family had got along good. Me and her brother, Jacob, was practically best friends. He worked as the custodian at the hospital she worked at, thanks to their mom, and we always looked out for her little brother. My wife was clearly an independent woman, and she could always think for herself. She always had a sense of confidence and demanded respect from me and Jacob. We didn't have kids, but I felt like if we did, she would be a good inspiration. But the problem with her was that she had toxic friends around her. The way they talked about each other made me feel like they were more like rivals than anything. They would talk about each other all week, but party together and claim they were sisters. Not only that, they would get into terrible arguments, especially when they were drunk. I can't count how many times they had a falling out with each other. Then the next week, they would go out on a girls' trip to be on vacation. I was told that girls secretly can be in competition with each other, so I thought it was just typical. It could be annoying, but I just took the good for the bad. I just thought it was normal between the five of them. The affair happened when her friend Erica was about to get married. Before the marriage, it's normal to have their wild party, so my wife and her friends left that night to throw Erica the party they planned at the hotel. I knew they were going to be out all night, so I didn't bother waiting up for her. A couple days after the wedding, I was getting ready to hop in the shower that night when I heard my phone ringing in the bedroom. At the time, I wasn't sure if that's what I heard, so I just hopped in the shower. When I came out of the shower, I saw I had 6 missed calls, and they were from the same number. This was weird to me, so I didn't call the person back since I didn't know who this person was. When I was in my living room, the number called again, and even though I didn't know the number, I decided to pick up. When I answered, nobody answered back at first, and all I could hear was a girl talking to a guy in the background. After saying hello 3 times, I just hung up. After that, they called again, and I immediately picked up the phone. This time the girl answered me back, and I realized it was one of my wife's friends. I asked her friend, let's just call her Jasmine, why she was calling me. She immediately started calling my wife names and saying she cheated on me at the party. This had put a real fear in me, but I still said she didn't know what she was talking about. She said she did know, and that she had recorded it as proof to show me. I asked her what she was talking about, and she told me everything. She said at Erica's party, they had hired some guys to come there and dance for everyone. Since my wife was extra friendly to one of the guys, he kept coming back to her, and he had crossed the line with her. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, but at the same time, I knew this kind of thing wasn't uncommon. After hearing me not say anything for a minute, Jasmine said if I wanted the evidence, she would send it to my phone. I told her to send it to me, and she said to hang up while she got ready to send it. After about 5 minutes, she sent me 4 video files, and when I looked at them, I had collapsed on the couch seeing the proof. I called Jasmine back, and she asked me did I get it. And while being choked up, I said I did get it. She started calling my wife names again, and told me she was sorry for how she acted. I asked her why she would do this to somebody she claimed was her sister, and she never gave me a direct answer. She just said my wife and her friends were a bunch of hypocrites, and called them fake. I asked how did she get my number, and she reminded me that my wife called her from my phone asking directions for her dinner party that she had at the restaurant. She said she was done being their friend, and said that Erica was doing bad things too. Jasmine said talk to my wife about it, and I told her that she was at another friend's house at the time, but I definitely was. After hanging up, I was falling to pieces. I knew I had to confront her. There was 4 full videos of my wife being with another guy. But after that, I didn't know what my life would be like. And how could she do this to me? I never trusted these parties, but I didn't think it would happen to me. I don't even get invited to these things. When my wife got home, I confronted her as soon as she walked in the door. I asked her how she was doing, and she said she was tired but fine. I told her I never asked her how Erica's party was and did she have fun. She seemed caught off guard a little, but she said it was fine. I told her Jasmine said she had a fun time, and that she even recorded her to show me later. She looked spooked and asked me what I was talking about, and I showed her the videos of her and the guy getting it on that night. First, her jaw dropped, then she screamed at what she saw. She begged me not to leave her, and said Jasmine was just doing this because my wife had replaced her with someone else to be one of Erica's bridesmaids. She said her and Erica got into a big argument about it with her, and Erica uninvited her from the ceremony. When I heard this, I could kind of see why Jasmine was mad, but not to go this far, though. It didn't matter to me because I told her I was getting a divorce, and that's exactly what I did. Through the whole divorce, both of our families wanted us to reconcile. I was told, even though she shouldn't have done it, it was a special night for them, and I wasn't supposed to have known. I told them that was supposed to be for the bride, and even if she was, I wouldn't stay with her. I couldn't believe my wife was doing this with this guy, especially in public. After finally getting divorced, I still couldn't leave the situation alone. I got in touch with other guys that dance and asked them about getting women. I even asked women. The women said they don't, but know girls who did it for extra money. The guys I asked said they get girls all the time, especially the bride. One guy said when he started, it wasn't like that at first, but the women started wanting it, and it just became normal. When I told my friends this, they said it was unhealthy and I should stop talking to them. I don't know. I guess it was just how I was handling it at the time, but I don't see nothing wrong with it. I just couldn't get these videos out of my head, especially when the guy knew she was being secretly recorded. Right now, my ex-wife lives in her own apartment, close to her job somewhere. I used to see her family once in a while, and they still ask me to forgive her because of the circumstance. But I just can't do it. I hate to admit it, but Jasmine was right when she said my ex-wife was a fake friend. But apparently her love was fake too. Now she don't regret it, I hear. Thank you for reading through all of this. And please continue to stay genuine.
Our second story.
I got revenge on my cheating fiancé by tricking her epically. This happened in 1998, give or take a year. I was about 22 and had been dating this girl for about 1.5 years. She was amazingly gorgeous, smart, and funny, so I was pretty crazy about her. She was only 1 year younger than me, but she still lived with her dad, and he was really strict. He has a bunch of rules for her, including curfews, even though she was 21. Amazingly, he thought she was an innocent. but I wasn't even her first. Eventually, he figured out we were having closeness and told her she couldn't see me anymore. We continued dating, but it was more difficult because she was always sneaking. She would often use her cousin as an excuse to get to me, but she would frequently go by his place for a while so she could have a cover story. She said they had been really close since they were kids, so this was normal. Eventually, I found out that her cousin wasn't actually her cousin. He was her dad's best friend's son, but her story was that she had always called him her cousin and thought of him as a cousin. I started noticing more and more things that seemed unusual, and I got really suspicious. One day, she told me she was having lunch at a certain restaurant and would then come over. Shortly after, I got a message on my pager that said meet at Red Lobster at 12. Then I got another message telling me that message was meant for her dad. I jetted over to the restaurant and spotted her car, and I parked way back. Another car pulls up. Her cousin gets out. They hug and kiss and go inside. I went back home to wallow in my misery. I canceled our date for that day, but didn't tell her that I knew. I soon came up with my evil plan. I must tell you about an incident that happened earlier in our relationship. One day she was getting dressed, and I snapped a picture of her backside with an old Polaroid. It was just a close-up of her backside, and there was no way to ID her from the picture. I didn't think she would care at all. She got insanely mad. I've never seen her so mad. She was ready to fight for that picture, but I made an effort to keep it from her. She started trying to rip it up, but couldn't. I told her to hand it to me and I would cut it up. She gets a pen and starts marking it up, then finds scissors and cuts it up. I burned the remains in front of her. She stayed mad for a while and lectured me over and over how she did not want any explicit pictures of her to ever exist. I can't stress enough how much she hated the idea of anybody having photos of her. She was horrified. She didn't talk to me for about a week, and we almost broke up. But she finally accepted that I really didn't think it would have bothered her, and that I would never try it again. Moving on, I had my plan together, and we made plans for her to come back to my place. I was renting a decent house with my best friend, but lived like a bachelor. Very little furniture in my room. I had a bed, computer table with a chair, dresser, an alarm clock on the floor by my bed. I went and got an extra chair from the kitchen and placed it at the foot of my bed. I got another alarm clock and put it on the chair. I intended to make it look obviously out of place. She came over and we made love. I kept my cool and strung this along for another 2 weeks or so, having love 2 to 3 times per week. I made a point to do it different positions and try and keep her angled in a way that the alarm clock was looking directly at her. I wanted to keep it going, but decided enough was enough. Right before we left on the last day, I unplugged the clock, sat it next to my computer, and carried the chair to a different room. I made sure she saw me, but made it look like I was just cleaning up. I started getting cold feet about my plan because I knew how mean it was. I decided to wait a day, which turned into 2. And finally, after about 1 week, I decided to call and confront her. I still wasn't sure if I was going to take revenge or not. I made the call and told her I knew she was seeing her cousin. Can't remember his name. She denied, but I told her that somebody told me they saw them kissing. She finally admitted it, but claimed that it just started this week. I asked, "How can you duck your cousin?" She said, "You know he's not really my cousin." We argue a bit more, and I tell her that I've known for a month. Then she tried to turn it around on me for not saying something when I found out, and she made a really smart comment that I can't remember. I then told her that there was one last thing that she would really want to know. Me: "Do you remember that alarm clock sitting on the chair by my bed?" Her: "Yeah." Me: "Never wondered why it was there?" Her: "Not really." Me: "Think about the last several times we had closeness. How we did this at the foot of the bed. with you facing the foot and so on. Her. What the heck are you saying? Me. It was a ducking spy cam, you disgusting cousin-cheating witch. I slammed the phone down. I had called from a payphone for some reason. My pager blew up for the next several hours. It didn't stop vibrating for a solid 30 minutes before I turned it back on. My phone home was lit up with VMs. Her messages started with screaming and crying, then threats, then begging, then offering bribes. And then she would go right back through the same cycle. The next day, she came to my house and knocked on the door for at least an hour, but I didn't answer. The calls and messages kept coming for weeks, even though the frequency died down a lot. She also came to my house a few more times, but I never answered, and sometimes I wasn't home. I finally answered a phone call, but when she started asking for the tapes, I told her that I didn't know what she was talking about. I listened to her beg, cry, plead, and I would eventually chime in with I don't know what tapes you are talking about. I hung up and never spoke to her again. The calls and messages eventually stopped, and I went on with my life. There never was a hidden camera, but she doesn't know that to this day. It was just an old alarm clock that looked just chunky enough to pass as a spy cam if you weren't paying attention. I grew to regret it because it probably tortured her for a long time, and it only took me about 6 months to get over my broken heart.
I hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe to my channel.